Across the world and also here in India, the traditional forms and practices of journalism and mass communications, they are undergoing very, very significant changes. And one of the important reasons, perhaps the most important reason why these changes are taking place is on account of the internet and digital technology. Very few of us could have imagined that the internet is maybe 25 years old, but it's really the last 10 or 15 years that we've seen the internet change human society in ways that many of us did not anticipate or foresee. At one level, what has not changed is, the internet gives you a lot of information, and a lot of that is not credible, inaccurate. The biggest business on the internet is pornography. Yet at the same time, what we cannot deny is that the need for factually correct, credible information is crucial to the sustenance of democracy and free expression of views, and in particular views that are contrary to the views espoused by the ruling elites. Now, we've seen in India in the recent past how those spaces have been shrinking. So, the point I was making is that the media has a traditional role to play, an adversary, an antagonist, of power and authority, and they also have a role to ensure there's greater transparency in public life. So there's greater accountability also. And there is, it lowers, thank you, the potential to abuse discretionary powers which are vested. So the independence of media is meant to ensure that there are certain checks and balances in the working of the other institutions of the state. Okay. Now, what we see is that across the world and also in India, it's roughly coincided also with the phase of economic liberalization since the early 90s. The government's monopoly on broadcasting formally ended. But there's also been a proliferation of television channels, and almost all of them privately owned. Why do I talk about television in particular? Well, because even today, although the internet has spread across the world and also in India, television remains the most widely consumed medium of mass communication. And India offers a classic example where you had a single broadcaster in the early 90s, and today you have a few hundred television channels claiming they're presenting you news and current affairs. There have been 900 television channels that have been officially allowed to uplink and downlink by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, of which roughly 300 claim they are news and current affairs. But this is a classic case where you see that intensification of competition hasn't resulted in more choice or an improvement in quality. So in fact, the laws of capitalism or the rules of the marketplace have been turned upside down. And if you look at industry structures also, it's very, very different. An industry structure typically has a few producers, many wholesalers, that many more retailers. In the case of television in India, it's just the other way around, the pyramid is inverted. But what is important is that the intensification of competition has resulted in a sharp lowering of ethical standards and choices available. Now, we know the mainstream media is largely controlled by large corporate houses. We see that happening, and we see that trend continuing. So, whereas there are large numbers of publications, websites, television channels, there are a few that dominate. And the typical example, a very illustrative example would be Delhi. The National Capital Region is the only part of the world which brings out 16 English daily newspapers. Now, that sounds very impressive. But the fact is there are two newspapers that account for more than 3/4 of the market. That's Times of India and Hindustan Times. So why are the others there? And why are they competing with one another for such a narrow segment of the market? One of the reasons is that the fourth estate is real estate. It's sitting on property. The fourth estate is an extension of the egos of individuals. The fourth estate is an extension of the ambitions of people who may be affiliated directly to political parties or have distinct political affiliations. The short point is that mainstream media is controlled fully or partly by large corporate houses, and it treats its audiences as consumers rather than citizens. So the whole notion of information as a public good, vis-a-vis information as a back-end product, often marks the distinction between the mainstream media and the so-called alternate media or alternative media. Now, what we are seeing is that the alternative media, to some extent, is providing information which is not just considered useful or relevant to the elite, but information that could be of use to larger sections of the population. And this would include information on agriculture, healthcare, education, diseases, status of women, sexual minorities, information about children, human rights, environmental issues, workers' unions, mining projects. Now, what we've seen is that even as much of the mainstream media has become extremely corrupt and venal, there are sections of the media that have also tried to continue to uphold the traditions of the fourth, so to say. Fourth estate. Yeah. So, okay. Now, what's happening across the world are two very interesting phenomena, and this also has had an impact on India. The first thing is, across the world, and this didn't start today, it's been going on for the last at least 2 decades, people are reading less and less on paper. They're reading more and more on screens, computer screens, handheld devices, and so on and so forth. More importantly, people have, because of the internet, want more and more information free. They don't want to pay for it. Now, even a newspaper which costs 3 rupees would have cost you 30 rupees if there's no advertising, because 90% of that revenue would come from advertising sources. But what has happened is, coinciding with this exponential rise of the net, has been the squeezing of expenditures on advertising and marketing services. You have a recession that took place, and that's continuing. We are seeing another big dip in that recession. In India, we don't like the R word, so we say economic slowdown. China doesn't like the R word, so we say economic slowdown. But whenever there's either a recession or an economic slowdown, what are the expenditures that tend to be curtailed? One of them is the expenditure on advertising and marketing services. So these have a direct impact on the business models of traditional media organizations. Now, despite these phenomena, there are some unique aspects about India, and I can talk about these in greater detail if people want. One unique aspect about India is the only country in the world which calls itself a democracy, where news and current affairs on radio is still a monopoly of the government. It's very, very unusual, considering that whether it be internet, whether it be publishing, whether it be television, large numbers of private players. Radio still remains in a sense, still controlled by the government. We are seeing attempts being made by different organizations, and in my paper there are about 7 or 8 such examples. CGNet Swara in Bhopal, Khabar Lahariya, Video Volunteers, besides the Hoot, News Laundry, The Wire, Scroll, among other organizations. What is happening is that the funds that used to be spent on gathering information and so-called investigative reporting has shrunk. So more and more philanthropic organizations, the trusts and registered bodies which have not been part of the media have also become involved in this. The other important thing that technology has changed is that the earlier divide that used to exist with what was called telecommunications and broadcasting doesn't exist anymore. That's completely obliterated. So, for instance, you missed your favorite anchor from 9 to 10, telling you what the nation wants to know, but you can pick it up, on the internet at any point of time. So you have that facility. And Information is today available literally in the palm of your hand. Now, what has happened in a country like India? It's more than 1.25 billion people. We have about 1 billion SIM cards, which are subscriber identity modules. We have somewhere in the region of about 700 million handsets, and of these handsets, roughly 250 million are what are called smartphones. Chala, Chalayaman, Durbhaj, Yantra. And these proportions are going to grow. So there's an entire generation of people, young people in India, who are going to be accessing information on the handset, on their smartphones. Now, what does this mean? It's unrealistic to expect journalists would be driven purely by their personal idealism, journalism as a mission, or the other extreme, the corruption, journalism for a commission. You see journalists today for the first time who've been put behind bars, perhaps for good reasons. So, whereas it's a mixed picture, I do believe that despite the gloom and doom and a lot of bias that we see and corruption and venality that we see in large sections of the media, I'd be cautiously optimistic about the future of mass media in India in playing its traditional role to ensure greater transparency in society and greater accountability on the part of those who are in power. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paranjoy, for a very concise sum up of...
The double-edged sword of the social media, in the sense that, as I mentioned yesterday here, on Facebook we are the product. So, yes, in an obvious sense, it's a huge democratization. And so many people can reach each other through multiple kinds of, crisscrossing relationships, which may or may not be a full network. But is democracy more endangered in a state where there is no filters to sift fact from lies, fiction from myth from reality, and the enormous capacity of both the combination of the audiovisual media and whether it's on the internet or on TV and social media to trigger manias, whether it's the death of Diana. But that was my first experience of mass mania actually. I was in the West at that time. Or it is, current realities that we are living through.
Just two questions. One is this remarkable fact that you mentioned that radio, is it not radio station but radio news, right? Which is still under control of the government. I mean, since we are talking about India, imagine 2047. Do you think that such monopoly is just to fall apart, or that it could still be there in 30 years? And what would be the reasons for that? I mean, what's your thinking about it? And the other one is, of course, that I think media use is very much linked actually with age. I mean, with the age group in which certain people are. Somebody who grows up with a particular type of media is going to be attached for this for a long time. I think to an extent, of course. I mean, even people of my age, of course, have got to the smartphone, and I love it. But I think there's still different types of usages. Yeah, and I just wonder, does this age structure, this massively young age structure that India have, does it mean some peculiar trajectory of media development?
It's interesting how when you're talking about alternate media, you're talking about digital technology. In the 70s, when we talked about alternate media, we were talking about folk media. So, I mean, the language seems to have changed in the 21st century. So I wonder if you would also talk about folk media and the revival of folk media when we are talking about alternate media futures.
In our given political context where liberation theological ideologies and secular theological ideologies are in a flux, very weak, and the way social media and television media has been used to create a kind of anxiety about the survival of nation state and its territoriality. I wonder, I share your optimism, and I think it is because of the present combination of media and the monopoly. Amit Shah, Narendra Modi appear to be succeeding in their fascistic project corporate fascistic project, which I never thought, even when he came to power, I thought Indian society and the power will moderate them. But given the success they had in last 10 days, I have my doubts.
I had a question more in terms of the process of reporting itself. Like, given that you stated that the funds for investigative reporting is reducing, at the same time, technology also opens up the possibility of crowdsourcing information. So, how do you balance that particular possibility and limitation?
I just want to touch upon one aspect of this whole media and the movements. Like when I was in the left movement around 80s, probably we never went out of the way to engage with the media. But there was a larger critic out there saying that all media is actually, corporate and capitalism and all type of things. But nowadays there's a change in the entire thing. In fact, I think activists and movements are after media, whether it is social media, print media, TV media, to engage and get the message across. So this is a radical change. There are also people who may not be doing anything on the ground, but you have a much larger presence in the media today. So I think, we need to make a bit of a critique about where this whole movement and media relationship going, because I think the political commentary is actually missing today.
I just wanted to ask if you agree with me that I think one of the positive aspects has been that there's a lot more access to foreign media. I mean, it's great that we can watch Al Jazeera, that, we haven't talked a lot in this meeting about the impact of global happenings, global phenomena. And I'm not just talking about terrorism, but alternatives around the world that we can be exposed to through certain kinds of media. And I'm wondering if that's something that, we can sort of build upon and at least be conscious of and let people know where this is available and what you think of that. I mean, that they're both kinds, but...
My question is actually with this whole issue of now the truth. In this whole crowdsourcing and videos, every little thing that somebody says, they show a video. We don't know whether it is live, whether it is true, whether it's real, whether it is from past. But the image has become so powerful that everything is about images. And the truth is lost actually, because now we don't know whether that video from JNU was real, was it doctored, now it's, so there's multiple views of reality at the same time, and that's very sort of disturbing.
If you can share with us your understanding of the way the institutions of regulation now need to move, whether it's about social media or television or broadcasting, number one. Number two, finally you need, in order to sort of, create a more socially responsible media, a socially responsible media force in terms of people whom we want to create. What kind of efforts are going on at this juncture, so that a community of such people who are socially responsible, politically aware, who are willing to play a role and are accountable, whether such efforts are being shaped or thought about.
In fact, it's called the age of sound bites. We live in the age of sound bites. Can I tell you what truth is in 25 seconds flat? No. Can I define objectivity for you in 35 seconds? No, I can't. I won't even try. What is the social media? Is it anti-social? Of course, such. But look, you cannot ignore the social media. Why? Very simple. The number of people who use Facebook today has overtaken the population of India and soon will overtake the population of China. It was until 1 year ago the third most populous nation state in the world. Now it is soon going to be the most populous nation. Facebook. Who knows? Because you have multiple holders. Yes, I'm going to come to that. The anonymity of the matter. But let's also give you another. WhatsApp. Very recently, the number of people who use WhatsApp in one 24-hour cycle exceeded the billion mark. Which is just giving you just facts. As these are very, very current figures. As Rajni, you rightly pointed out, it's a double-edged sword. Of course, it is a double-edged sword. But as Sanjay Subramaniam and many others have pointed out, those with real Twitter handles, real Facebook accounts, it's my picture under my name, I'm not XYZ, the chances of me getting trolled, what is a troll? A troll is a person who is sometimes paid for, sometimes is a very lonely person who does nothing but abuse others. And does it on the internet because of the anonymity that the internet gives. At one level you can say the right to free expression should also include the right to offend. At another level, when you are anonymous, you can get away not just abusing somebody, you can defame a person criminally and get away. So that's the new dimension of the net. Is democracy in danger? It's a slightly more complex question, but I'll come to that in a bit from now. Let's talk about radio, Alex. Sorry.
Never mind.
Accents.
Whatever way it works.
Wheel and accent. All right. Axel, some of us have moved a petition in the Supreme Court of India saying that this is anomalous, that you have 250 FM radio stations, that number will quadruple in the coming years. You have about 200 odd community radio stations, their number will go up. There's no country in the world which says you can't broadcast music, because you should only put out what is put out by All India Radio Akashvani. That petition has been heard in the Supreme Court of India. The judgment has been reserved. I am hopeful that it also doesn't require a parliament to change the law. It can be an executive decision by the cabinet. Will it happen? I don't know. It's interesting that radio was once also two-way communication. Now we have Man Ki Baat. You know, one person communicates to you and tells you what his own view is, right? Man Ki Baat. He distorted my statement since I'm being immortalized on YouTube and it's going to be put up. And the big man might see. He has. That's right. Asim may have defamed somebody. I don't know who he has defamed. But Axel, I don't think it's going to last for 30 years. No, I don't think so. I personally don't think it's going to last very much more than 3 years. Perhaps more than 3 years, very much. And I'm hopeful, you know, we're all optimists here. Now, on the demographic profile, you made a very important point. Is the New York Times today, in its physical form, being read only by the elite and the elderly? Answer yes. More and more young people are preferring not to read on paper, and they say it's good for the environment, it's good for climate change. That's a separate issue which we can debate at a later point of time. Mani, by saying that alternative media is in the digital space, no, that's not correct. Because what we are seeing is, when you look at, say, Khabar Lahariya, it's print, it's a printed. When you look at CG Netswara, it's using the internet, but you can call and your voice gets recorded. You know, so it's a hybrid case. I'm not even suggesting that theatre and the art or dances or music is going to be disappeared. No, not at all. I think the bigger issue is your children and everybody here in their 20s and their 30s haven't paid a paisa for the music they listen to. You and I would go to a store to pay for music. We would buy first a vinyl disc, then an audio cassette, then a CD. These guys don't, everything is free. Alright, I have 3 minutes. I have to quickly do this. Vijay ji, आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा. ठीक है, एक तो जी है, एक अपना अर्नब जी है, मगर आप साथ-साथ और भी लोग हैं ना. So, हाँ, हम जानते हैं मोदी जी how well he's been able to use the media, but
Paranjoy, Manini, Ravish, ये तो उंगलियों पे गिने जा सकते हैं.
हाँ, बिल्कुल जी. But we were always in a minority, no?
But
then, you know, it's possible today that I'll tell you in my own experience. I mean, I wrote something about the richest man in India. I never thought that there were 200,000 people who would read that particular article. I said there's nothing new about what I've done. I've rehashed. It's a good old day and age of the internet, a cut and paste job I did. For some reason, one particular article I wrote got 200,000. I never thought it would happen. The process of reporting, yes, crowdsourcing is indeed becoming one of the ways of doing it. Earlier generation, we used to burn leather. When we used to walk, today's generation, they burn CDs. But the process of reporting hasn't changed, you're right. Process of gathering information, speaking to information, that has not changed. Probably it's just the technology that has made something easier. You don't, I mean, your library is in the palm of your hand as well. Arpita, the process, therefore, crowdsourcing is indeed happening, and it's happening more and more. Joy, we are in a more media society. We have to engage with the media. Where आपने विजय जी आप कहाँ के हैं पत्रकार थे, पंडित नेहरू पत्रकार थे, मोहनदास करमचंद पत्रकार थे, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी, लाल कृष्ण आडवाणी भी पत्रकार थे. आज पूरा वो जमाना तो बदल गया, because the media is politics. The media is your public value. The media is when you have a public function and that feed is given free. So you don't know whether there are 500 people or 5,000 people in the audience because the camera is controlled by you. Okay? Positive aspects? Yes, Vinu. Yes, there is a positive aspect. I agree with you. Truth. Oh, that's a tough one. What is truth?
Yeah, 40 seconds.
I give you all of 30 seconds to summarize everything I could not say. Thank you very much.